The stagecoach wheels kicked up dust on the lonely road to Green River, Wyoming, as Sophia Summers pressed a handkerchief to her mouth, trying desperately to stifle the sound of her labored breathing. The summer of 1878 had brought oppressive heat to the frontier, making the journey even more unbearable for her substantial frame squeezed between two disgruntled travelers. Their sideways glances communicated more than words ever could. Sophia had left Chicago with little more than a teaching certificate, 2 trunks of possessions, and the crushing weight of a society that had deemed her unworthy of love due to her size. At 26, she had accepted the position in Wyoming Territory as her last chance at independence, even as her family warned that the frontier was no place for a woman of her delicate constitution. The elderly woman beside her shifted uncomfortably as Sophia wheezed slightly, the dust and heat making her chest tight. "I apologize for my breathing," Sophia whispered, her cheeks flushing with familiar shame. "The heat makes it difficult." The woman merely huffed and turned toward the window. The stagecoach hit another rut, jostling the passengers and sending Sophia into another fit of labored breathing. Green River Station approaching. The driver called from above. Relief flooded through Sophia. Soon she would escape the confines of the coach and the judgment of her fellow travelers. As the stagecoach rolled to a stop, she gathered her reticule and prepared to disembark, dreading the awkward maneuvering her body would require to exit gracefully. The door swung open, and a sun-weathered hand appeared, offering assistance. Sophia hesitated before taking it, feeling the strength in the calloused palm as it supported her weight without faltering. "Welcome to Green River, madam," said a deep voice belonging to a tall man whose face was partially hidden beneath the brim of a worn Stetson. His eyes, a striking blue against his tanned skin, held no judgment as they met hers. "Thank you, sir," Sophia managed, trying to catch her breath after the exertion of descending from the coach. She felt her chest heaving visibly and turned away in embarrassment. "I apologize for my breathing," she said reflexively, the words familiar on her tongue after years of offering them to strangers. The man tilted his head slightly, studying her with an intensity that made her uncomfortable. Then his expression softened, and he said words she would never forget. "Your breath means you're alive with me, madam. No need to apologize for living." Sophia blinked in surprise, unsure how to respond to such unexpected kindness. "Name's Gabriel Eastwood," he continued, tipping his hat. "Town marshal of Green River. You must be Miss Summers, our new school teacher." "Yes," she confirmed, trying to compose herself. "How did you know?" "Small town," he replied with a slight smile. "We've been expecting you. Let me help with your trunks and show you to your lodgings." As Marshal Eastwood instructed the stagecoach driver about her luggage, Sophia took in her surroundings. Green River was smaller than she had imagined, a single main street lined with wooden buildings, a few side streets with modest homes, and the vast Wyoming landscape stretching beyond. The wind carried the scent of sage and dust, so different from Chicago's smoke and grime. "School board arranged for you to stay at Mrs. Peterson's boarding house until you get settled," Gabriel explained as he lifted her trunks with ease. "It's just down the street." "Can you walk a bit, or would you prefer I arrange a wagon?" "I can walk," Sophia insisted, not wanting to appear more helpless than she already felt. They moved slowly down the dusty street, Gabriel matching his long stride to her shorter, more labored one. Sophia felt the eyes of townsfolk upon her, some curious, some already dismissive of the overweight woman who had come to teach their children. "Don't mind them," Gabriel said quietly, noticing her discomfort. "They'll warm up once they know you. Folks here judge by character more than appearance once they get to know you proper." I hope you're right, Marshal, Sophia replied, not entirely convinced. Her experiences in Chicago had taught her otherwise. Mrs. Peterson's boarding house was a two-story white clapboard building with a tidy front porch. The widow who ran it greeted Sophia with a polite but reserved manner, showing her to a modest room on the first floor. Figured the stairs might be difficult, Mrs. Peterson said, her implication clear. Sophia forced a smile. Thank you for your consideration. After Mrs. Peterson departed, Gabriel set down the trunks and lingered awkwardly at the doorway. School term doesn't start for another 2 weeks, he said. Gives you time to settle in. If you need anything, my office is just across from the general store. Thank you, Marshal Eastwood. You've been very kind. Something flashed in his eyes, perhaps surprise at her formal tone. Just Gabriel is fine, Miss Summers. Then you must call me Sophia. He nodded, a small smile playing at the corners of his mouth. Welcome to Green River, Sophia. I hope you'll be happy here. After he left, Sophia sank onto the narrow bed, listening to it creak under her weight. She wondered if she had made a terrible mistake coming here. But then she recalled Gabriel's words. Your breath means you're alive with me. Such a simple statement, yet it had touched something deep within her that had been cold for too long. The next morning, Sophia rose early, determined to familiarize herself with the town before meeting with the school board later that day. She dressed carefully in her most presentable travel dress, a dark blue cotton that she had altered herself to accommodate her figure as flatteringly as possible. After arranging her brown hair in a simple but neat bun, she took a deep breath and ventured out. Green River was already awake and bustling despite the early hour. Cowboys and townspeople moved purposefully along the wooden sidewalks, and wagons rattled down the main street. Sophia made her way toward the schoolhouse, which she had glimpsed the previous day. The small white building stood at the edge of town, surrounded by a dirt yard where children would play during their breaks. Sophia approached cautiously, finding the door unlocked. Inside, the single room contained rows of simple desks, a larger teacher's desk at the front, and a blackboard mounted on the wall. A pot-bellied stove stood in one corner for the winter months. It's not much, but it's sturdy. Sophia turned quickly, startled by the voice. Gabriel Eastwood stood in the doorway, his tall frame nearly filling it. Marshal Eastwood, Gabriel, she corrected herself. You startled me. Sorry about that, he said, stepping into the room. Saw you headed this way and thought you might want to see inside properly. It's lovely, Sophia said, and meant it. The room was clean and well-maintained, with large windows allowing ample light. How many students will I have? About 25, ages 6 to 16. Some only come when their families don't need them for ranch work or when the weather permits. You'll have your hands full with the different levels. Sophia nodded, already mentally organizing how she would structure her lessons. Teaching was something she understood, something she could control, unlike how people perceived her body. The school board meeting is at 2 o'clock at the town hall, Gabriel continued. I can escort you there if you'd like. That's very kind, but I can find my way. I'm sure you have more important duties than shepherding the new teacher around town. Gabriel leaned against one of the student desks, studying her with those intense blue eyes. Actually, I don't. Green River's pretty peaceful most days. My job is mainly breaking up the occasional drunken dispute at the saloon and making sure travelers passing through don't cause trouble. Sophia nodded, unsure how to respond. There was something unsettling about Gabriel's direct gaze and his apparent ease in her company. Most men averted their eyes when speaking to her, as if her size made her uncomfortable to behold. I should continue exploring the town, she said finally. I want to visit the general store to purchase some supplies. I'll walk with you, Gabriel offered, straightening. Need to check in with a few folks anyway. They walked side by side down the main street, Gabriel occasionally tipping his hat to townspeople. Sophia was acutely aware of the curious glances directed their way, the town marshal escorting the new, noticeably overweight schoolteacher. "People are staring," she murmured. "People always stare at what's new," Gabriel replied easily. "Nothing personal. By next week, they'll barely notice you passing by." At the general store, Sophia selected notebooks, pencils, and some personal items while Gabriel chatted with the proprietor. When she approached the counter to pay, the store owner, a portly man named Mr. Jenkins, smiled warmly. "Miss Summers, welcome to Green River. These supplies are on the house. Consider it a welcome gift from the community." Sophia blinked in surprise. "That's very generous, but I couldn't possibly." "School board approved it," Gabriel interrupted. "Standard practice for new teachers." Sophia wasn't entirely convinced this was true, but she accepted graciously, not wanting to cause a scene. Outside the store, she turned to Gabriel. "Was that really standard practice?" A hint of mischief touched his eyes. "Maybe not. But Jenkins' boy Thomas will be in your class, and he struggles with his letters. Jenkins is hoping you'll give the boy some extra attention." Sophia couldn't help but smile. "So I've been bribed already." "Consider it frontier diplomacy," Gabriel replied, returning her smile with one that transformed his weathered face, creating crinkles around his eyes. After parting ways with the marshal, Sophia continued her exploration of Green River, gradually mapping the small settlement in her mind. By midday, the summer heat had become oppressive, and she returned to Mrs. Peterson's boarding house, her dress damp with perspiration and her breathing labored. In the parlor, she encountered two other boarders, a young clerk from the bank and an elderly gentleman who worked at the land office. Their conversation halted abruptly when she entered, and their eyes widened slightly at her flushed appearance and audible breathing. "Good day," she greeted them, trying to control her breath. "I'm Sophia Summers, the new school teacher." "Walter Reed," the clerk responded, standing awkwardly. "And this is Mr. Parsons." The elderly man merely nodded, his eyes fixed somewhere over Sophia's shoulder. "Pleased to meet you both," she said, painfully aware of the silence that followed. "I hope you'll excuse me. I need to prepare for my meeting with the school board." In the privacy of her room, Sophia allowed herself a moment of dejection. The familiar weight of social discomfort settled over her along with the physical weight she had carried all her life. She had hoped that in this new place, she might somehow shed the shame that had been her constant companion. But already she felt the familiar patterns emerging: the stares, the awkward pauses, the averted eyes. Only Gabriel had looked at her directly, had spoken to her as if she were a person worthy of normal interaction. But he was probably just being kind out of duty. The town marshal would naturally want to make the new teacher feel welcome. At precisely 2 o'clock, Sophia presented herself at the town hall, where 5 members of the school board, all men, waited to meet her. Their initial expressions of surprise at her appearance were quickly masked with professional courtesy. "Miss Summers," the board president, Mr. Hamilton, greeted her. "We're pleased you've arrived safely. Your references from Chicago were most impressive." "Thank you, sir. I'm eager to begin teaching." The meeting proceeded with discussions of curriculum expectations, school hours, and community standards. Sophia answered their questions confidently, her expertise in education evident. She noted with some satisfaction that their initial skepticism seemed to diminish as the meeting progressed. "There is one matter we must address," Mr. Hamilton said as the meeting neared its end. "The teachers' quarters behind the schoolhouse require some repairs. Until they're completed, you'll need to remain at Mrs. Peterson's boarding house." The town will cover your expenses, of course." "That's very generous," Sophia replied. "May I ask what repairs are needed and when they might be completed?" The board members exchanged glances. "The floor has some structural issues," one of them said carefully. "We need to ensure it's properly supported." Sophia understood immediately. They were concerned about whether the floor could support her weight. The humiliation burned through her, but she maintained her composed expression. "I see. I appreciate your attention to safety." After the meeting concluded, Sophia walked slowly back toward the boarding house, fighting tears of frustration. In Chicago, at least, people had been more direct in their cruelty. This careful dance around her weight somehow felt worse. "Miss Summers." Sophia turned to see Gabriel jogging toward her, his long legs quickly closing the distance between them. "How did the meeting go?" he asked when he reached her. "Well enough," she replied, unable to keep the edge from her voice. "Though I learned the teachers' quarters aren't ready because the floor might not hold me." Gabriel's expression darkened. "They said that." Not in those exact words, but the meaning was clear. He removed his hat and ran a hand through his sandy brown hair, visibly frustrated. "I'm sorry, Sophia, that's not right." "It's nothing I'm not used to," she said, trying to sound matter-of-fact rather than wounded. "That doesn't make it right." His jaw tightened. "I can speak to Hamilton, please don't," Sophia interrupted quickly. "I'd rather not draw more attention to it. Besides, Mrs. Peterson's is comfortable enough." Gabriel studied her face, then nodded reluctantly. "At least let me walk you back." They walked in companionable silence for a few moments before Gabriel spoke again. "There's a town social this Saturday evening. Sort of a last celebration before harvest season gets busy. Would be a good opportunity for you to meet more folks." Sophia hesitated. Social gatherings had always been ordeals of discomfort, standing awkwardly on the periphery, watching others dance while pretending she didn't mind being overlooked. "I'm not much for dancing," she said finally. "Neither am I," Gabriel admitted with a slight smile. "Two left feet, but there's good food and music, and as the new school teacher, folks will want to meet you. Will you be there?" The question slipped out before Sophia could stop it. Gabriel's eyes softened. "I will. Could even save you a seat if you'd like." Something warm unfurled in Sophia's chest, a feeling so unfamiliar that she hardly recognized it as hope. "Then I'll attend," she said. That Saturday evening, Sophia dressed with particular care in her best gown, a deep green that complemented her hazel eyes. She had spent an hour altering the dress years ago to flatter her figure as much as possible, with a slightly lower neckline to draw attention to her face rather than her body. Mrs. Peterson eyed her appraisingly as Sophia emerged from her room. "You clean up nice, Miss Summers, though you might want a shawl. Some might find that neckline a bit daring for a schoolteacher." Sophia's confidence faltered, but she lifted her chin. "Thank you for your concern, Mrs. Peterson, but I'm comfortable as I am." The town social was held in the large barn behind the livery stable, which had been cleared of its usual occupants and decorated with lanterns and wildflowers. When Sophia arrived, the celebration was already underway, with a small band playing lively tunes and tables laden with food prepared by the women of Green River. She paused at the entrance, momentarily overwhelmed by the crowd and noise. Families with children, young couples, elderly folks, it seemed the entire town had turned out for the event. Sophia scanned the room, searching for Gabriel's tall figure without wanting to admit to herself that she was doing so. "Miss Summers." A young girl of about 10 approached, her blonde braids bouncing. "I'm Emma Wilson. Papa says you're going to be my teacher." Sophia smiled, instantly warming to the child's friendly demeanor. "That's right, Emma. I'm looking forward to having you in my class." Can you really speak French like Mr. Hamilton said? Oui, je parle français, Sophia confirmed, delighted by the girl's wide-eyed response. Will you teach us that? Perhaps if there's interest. More children gathered around, curious about their new teacher, and Sophia found herself surrounded by a small crowd of eager young faces asking questions about books, arithmetic, and whether she knew about dinosaur bones. Their parents approached more cautiously, sizing her up as they introduced themselves. Sophia was so engaged with meeting her future students and their families that she didn't notice Gabriel's arrival until he was standing beside her, 2 cups of punch in hand. Thought you might be thirsty, he said, offering her one of the cups. Seems you're popular already. Sophia accepted the punch gratefully. The children are wonderful, very curious. That's because they haven't had a proper teacher in almost a year. The last one left to get married in Montana. Gabriel lowered his voice. Between you and me, the substitute, we've had Mr. Cooper over there knows more about whiskey than literature. Sophia followed his gaze to an elderly man dozing in a corner chair. I see I have my work cut out for me. You'll do fine, Gabriel said with such certainty that Sophia almost believed him. The band struck up a waltz, and couples moved to the center of the barn to dance. Sophia instinctively stepped back, preparing for her usual role as wallflower. Would you like to dance? Gabriel asked unexpectedly. Sophia stared at him, certain she had misheard. I thought you said you had 2 left feet. I do, he admitted with a rueful smile, but I'm willing to risk public humiliation if you are. She hesitated, glancing around at the other dancers, all of them slimmer than she was. People will stare. Let them, Gabriel replied, offering his hand. Besides, they're already staring because you're new. Might as well give them something to actually look at. His teasing tone and the warmth in his eyes made something shift inside Sophia. With a deep breath, she placed her hand in his. I warn you, I might be just as clumsy. Then we'll be clumsy together. Gabriel led her to the edge of the dancing area, placing one hand properly at her waist while holding her other hand. Sophia was acutely aware of his touch, of the respectful way he held her without drawing attention to the extra flesh beneath his fingers. They began to move, and true to his word, Gabriel was not a natural dancer. He counted under his breath and occasionally looked down at his feet, making Sophia laugh despite her nervousness. But he was strong and good-natured about his mistakes, and soon Sophia found herself relaxing, enjoying the simple pleasure of being held and moving to music. See, not so terrible, Gabriel said after successfully navigating a turn. We haven't trampled anyone yet, Sophia agreed, smiling up at him. She was suddenly aware of how close they were, of the pleasant scent of soap and leather that clung to him, of the way his blue eyes crinkled at the corners when he smiled. For a brief, suspended moment, Sophia forgot about her size, about the stairs, about her lifetime of feeling unwanted and unworthy. The music ended, and couples around them applauded the band. Gabriel reluctantly released her, but remained close. Thank you for the dance, Sophia said, feeling oddly shy. Honor was mine, he replied, his voice lower than before. The moment was broken by Mr. Hamilton approaching them, his expression concerned. Marshal, there's a situation at the saloon that requires your attention. Couple of cowboys passing through getting rowdy. Gabriel's face immediately shifted into professional composure. Excuse me, Sophia. Duty calls. Of course, she replied, trying to hide her disappointment. As Gabriel strode away, Sophia made her way to a bench along the wall, suddenly feeling conspicuous without his presence beside her. She observed the townsfolk as they danced, ate, and socialized, trying to memorize names and faces for when school began. Mind if I join you? A woman about Sophia's age stood before her, holding a plate of food. She was slender and pretty, with dark hair neatly arranged and a friendly expression. "Please do," Sophia replied, moving slightly to make room. "I'm Rebecca Turner, the dressmaker," the woman said, settling beside her. "My boy Samuel will be in your class. He's the one over there trying to put a frog down his sister's dress." Sophia laughed, spotting the mischievous-looking boy. "Pleased to meet you, Mrs. Turner." "Miss Turner," she corrected with a smile. "Never married, and you can call me Rebecca." "Sophia," she offered in return, warming to the dressmaker's straightforward manner. "I saw you dancing with Gabriel," Rebecca said, a hint of curiosity in her voice. "He doesn't usually participate in such activities." "He was just being kind to the newcomer," Sophia replied, trying to sound casual. Rebecca looked thoughtful. "Perhaps, though kindness and Gabriel Eastwood have always been well acquainted. Man would give you the shirt off his back in a blizzard. How long has he been marshal here?" "About 3 years. Came from Denver with quite a reputation as a lawman. Town's been peaceful ever since, except for the occasional trouble with transients." Rebecca's eyes twinkled with good humor. "Half the unmarried women in town set their caps for him when he arrived, but he's kept to himself. Dedicated to his job, that one." Sophia absorbed this information, trying not to read too much into Gabriel's attention toward her. A man like him, handsome, respected, kind, surely couldn't have any genuine interest in someone like her beyond professional courtesy. "I could use some new dresses," Sophia said, changing the subject. "The journey from Chicago was hard on my wardrobe." Rebecca brightened. "I'd be delighted to help. Come by my shop on Monday. I have some lovely fabrics that just arrived from back east." They chatted comfortably about fashion and fabrics, and soon other women joined them. Sophia found herself engaged in conversation about everything from preserving fruit to the difficulties of keeping chickens safe from coyotes. For the first time since arriving in Green River, she felt a tentative sense of belonging. Gabriel did not return to the social that evening, presumably occupied with his duties at the saloon. Sophia tried not to feel disappointed as she walked back to the boarding house with several other residents, listening to their stories about life in Wyoming territory. The next morning, Sunday, Sophia dressed for church, knowing it would be another important opportunity to meet members of the community. She selected a modest blue dress with a high collar, determined to present herself as the dignified educator the town expected. The small white church at the end of Main Street was nearly full when she arrived. Sophia slipped into one of the few remaining spaces in a back pew, noticing Gabriel sitting several rows ahead with the other town officials. He didn't see her enter, and Sophia tried to focus on the service rather than on the broad set of his shoulders beneath his Sunday coat. The sermon was about welcoming strangers, which Sophia found appropriately coincidental. The minister, Reverend Phillips, spoke eloquently about the Christian duty to extend hospitality, reminding his congregation that even angels had been entertained unawares when appearing as travelers in need. After the service, Sophia joined the congregation outside, where people lingered to socialize in the pleasant morning air. Reverend Phillips sought her out, welcoming her warmly to Green River and expressing his hope that she would join the church's charitable activities. "We have a sewing circle that meets on Wednesday evenings," his wife added kindly. "We make quilts for those in need and raise funds for mission work. You'd be most welcome." "Thank you," Sophia replied, touched by the invitation. "I'd be happy to participate." As she spoke with the minister's wife, Sophia became aware of Gabriel approaching. He was without his usual marshal's star today, dressed in a well-worn but clean suit that somehow made him look more approachable than his official attire. "Miss Summers," He greeted her with a tip of his hat. "Hope you enjoyed the service." "I did, very much," she replied, noting the slight shadows under his eyes. "Were you able to resolve the situation at the saloon last night?" "Eventually," he said with a tired smile. "Two cowboys who'd been on the trail too long with too much liquor in them. They're sleeping it off in my jail before heading out this afternoon." Mrs. Phillips excused herself to greet other congregants, leaving Sophia and Gabriel standing together beneath the shade of a large cottonwood tree. "I'm sorry I couldn't return to the social," Gabriel said. "I had hoped to claim another dance." "There will be other socials, I imagine," Sophia replied, trying to sound casual while her heart quickened at his words. "Indeed there will." He hesitated, then asked, "Have you had a chance to see much beyond the town?" "Green River has some beautiful surroundings." "Not yet. I've been focused on settling in and preparing for classes. I'd be happy to show you sometime, maybe next Sunday after church. There's a lovely spot by the river that's perfect for a picnic lunch." Sophia stared at him, unable to hide her surprise. "Are you inviting me on an outing, Marshal Eastwood?" "I believe I am, Miss Summers," he replied, a hint of nervousness beneath his confident tone. "If that would be agreeable to you." Sophia hesitated, years of rejection and caution warring with the warmth in Gabriel's eyes. "What about my reputation? A school teacher needs to maintain propriety." "We'll invite Rebecca Turner and her younger siblings along," Gabriel suggested. "Completely respectable." Sophia smiled, both relieved and oddly disappointed at the solution. "Then yes, I'd like that very much." Gabriel's answering smile was like sunshine breaking through clouds. "Excellent, I'll make the arrangements." As they parted ways, Sophia couldn't help wondering if Gabriel was merely being kind to a newcomer, or if his interest might possibly be genuine. She had learned long ago not to trust such attentions. Men who had seemed interested in the past had often been playing cruel jokes or seeking to use her in some way. But something about Gabriel's straightforward manner made her want to believe him. The following week passed in a flurry of activity as Sophia prepared the schoolhouse for the term ahead. She organized books, created lesson plans for multiple grade levels, and met more parents and children who came to introduce themselves. Gabriel stopped by several times, once bringing a repaired desk he had found in the town storage shed, another time delivering a box of chalk and new slates donated by the general store. "You don't have to keep checking on me," Sophia told him on Friday afternoon as he helped her arrange the student desks in neat rows. "I'm quite capable of preparing the schoolroom myself." "I know you are," Gabriel replied, moving a heavy bookshelf with ease. "Maybe I just enjoy your company." Sophia felt her cheeks warm at his words. "Well, I appreciate the help. These desks are heavier than they look." Gabriel paused, leaning against one of the larger desks. "Are you still joining us for the picnic on Sunday?" "Yes, I'm looking forward to it." Sophia had spent part of her first paycheck on a new hat at Rebecca's suggestion, one with a wider brim to protect her face from the Wyoming sun. "Good. I'll come by the boarding house around 1 o'clock after the church service." He straightened, brushing dust from his hands. "I should get back to my rounds. Need anything else before I go?" "No, thank you. I'm nearly finished here." Gabriel lingered at the door. "You've done wonders with this place, Sophia. The children are lucky to have you as their teacher." After he left, Sophia sat at her desk, thinking about the way Gabriel consistently made her feel valued and capable. It was an unfamiliar sensation after years of being dismissed or pitied. Even if his kindness was merely friendship, it was precious to her. Sunday arrived with perfect weather, clear blue skies, and a gentle breeze that took the edge off the late summer heat. After church, Sophia hurried back to the boarding house to change into a lighter dress suitable for an outdoor excursion. She had just pinned her new hat in place when there was a knock at the front door. Gabriel stood on the porch with Rebecca Turner and two children, a boy of about 12 and a girl who looked around 8. "Miss Summers," Gabriel greeted her, his eyes brightening at the sight of her. "May I present my picnic companions? You know Rebecca, and these are her brother and sister, Thomas and Lucy, visiting from their aunt's ranch outside town." The children regarded Sophia with curious eyes but polite smiles. Thomas offered to carry the picnic basket Gabriel had brought, while Lucy shyly took Sophia's hand as they set off toward the river. The spot Gabriel had chosen was indeed beautiful, a grassy bank shaded by cottonwood trees, with the green river flowing peacefully nearby. The water glinted in the sunlight, and wildflowers dotted the surrounding meadow with splashes of color. "It's lovely," Sophia breathed, taking in the scenery. "Told you," Gabriel said with evident satisfaction. "Best view in the county." They spread a blanket on the grass, and Rebecca began unpacking the picnic basket, revealing fried chicken, biscuits, preserves, and a cherry pie. The children quickly asked permission to explore along the riverbank, which was granted with admonishments to stay in sight and away from the deeper water. As they enjoyed their meal, conversation flowed easily. Rebecca shared stories of growing up in the area, while Gabriel recounted tales of his early days as a lawman that had them all laughing. Sophia found herself relaxing completely, savoring not just the food but the company and the sense of acceptance. After they had eaten their fill, Rebecca suggested that she and the children gather wildflowers to press for her collection. They wandered off into the meadow, leaving Sophia and Gabriel sitting companionably on the blanket. "Thank you for arranging this," Sophia said, watching a hawk circle lazily overhead. "It's been a perfect afternoon." "Been too long since I took time to enjoy this spot myself," Gabriel admitted. "Always seem to be working. A town marshal's job is never done," something like that. He plucked a blade of grass, twisting it between his fingers. "Though Green River's peaceful enough most days." "What made you choose to be a lawman?" Sophia asked, genuinely curious about his path. Gabriel was quiet for a moment, his eyes on the distant mountains. "My father was killed when I was 15, shot by a man robbing our family store in Denver. The local lawman caught him, made sure justice was served. I decided then I wanted to be the kind of man who keeps peace and protects others." "I'm so sorry about your father," Sophia said softly. "It was a long time ago," Gabriel replied, though his eyes held old pain. "What about you? Why teaching?" Sophia smiled, grateful for the shift in focus. "Books were my refuge growing up. I wasn't like the other girls. Couldn't keep up in games, wasn't invited to social gatherings. But books, they didn't care what I looked like. And learning came easily to me." She paused, surprised at how much she had revealed. "My parents encouraged my education, thankfully. When I finished school, teaching seemed the natural choice. I wanted to share that love of learning with children." Gabriel's gaze was thoughtful. "Children are often kinder than adults. They see more clearly sometimes. They can also be brutally honest," Sophia said with a wry smile, remembering taunts from her own childhood. "True enough. But I've noticed they respond to how they're treated. Treat them with respect and kindness, they usually return it. Is that your approach to law enforcement as well?" Sophia asked, amused by his philosophy. "More or less," Gabriel admitted with a chuckle, "though sometimes grown men need sterner handling than children." They sat in comfortable silence for a few moments, watching Rebecca and the children in the distance as they gathered flowers, their laughter carrying on the breeze. "Sophia," Gabriel said finally, his voice more serious, I want you to know something." She turned to him, curious at his tone. "I admire you," he continued. "Coming all this way alone, taking on a classroom of children you've never met, building a new life in a strange place. That takes courage." Sophia felt warmth spread through her chest at his words. "I don't know about courage, perhaps desperation." "Why do you say that?" he asked, studying her face. She hesitated, then decided on honesty. "There wasn't much left for me in Chicago, no prospects for marriage or family. Teaching was all I had, and when this position opened, it seemed like a chance to start fresh where no one knew me." "Their loss," Gabriel said quietly but firmly. Sophia blinked, caught off guard by the conviction in his voice. Before she could respond, Lucy came running toward them, her hands filled with wildflowers. "Miss Summers, look what I found. Rebecca says they're called Indian paintbrushes." The moment passed, as Sophia admired the child's treasures and helped her arrange them for pressing. But Gabriel's words lingered in her mind, warming her like the afternoon sun. By the time they packed up the picnic and began the walk back to town, the sun was lowering in the western sky, painting the landscape in golden hues. Thomas and Lucy walked ahead with Rebecca, engaged in an animated discussion about a frog they had spotted near the river. "School starts tomorrow," Gabriel remarked as he and Sophia followed at a more leisurely pace. "Nervous, a little," Sophia admitted. "First days are always challenging, but I'm prepared, I think." "You'll do wonderfully," he assured her. "And if any of the older boys give you trouble, you just let me know." Sophia laughed. "I appreciate the offer, Marshal, but I've handled my share of troublemakers before. Teachers develop their own methods of maintaining order." "I don't doubt it," Gabriel replied with a smile. "Still, the offer stands." When they reached the boarding house, Rebecca and the children continued on toward their home, leaving Gabriel and Sophia standing on the porch. "Thank you again for today," Sophia said, suddenly shy under his steady gaze. "My pleasure," Gabriel replied. He hesitated, then added, "I'd like to call on you properly sometime, Sophia, if that would be welcome." Sophia's heart raced at his words. "Call on me, you mean?" "I mean, I'd like to court you if you're amenable." His directness was tempered with a gentleness that made her breath catch. "Gabriel, you hardly know me," she managed, even as hope flared within her. "I know enough to want to know more," he said simply. "Unless I've misread things and you don't share my interest." "No, that's not it," Sophia said quickly, then blushed at her eagerness. "I mean, I do find you. That is, I enjoy your company very much." Gabriel's smile was warm and genuine. "Good. Then may I call on you this Friday evening? Perhaps take you to dinner at the hotel restaurant?" Sophia nodded, scarcely believing this was happening. "Yes, I'd like that. Until tomorrow, then." "Good luck with your first day of school." Gabriel tipped his hat and turned to leave, then paused. "And Sophia, I meant what I said before. You are a woman of courage. Don't let anyone tell you differently." As she watched him walk away, Sophia pressed a hand to her chest, feeling her rapid heartbeat. For the first time in her adult life, a good, kind, handsome man had expressed genuine interest in courting her. It seemed too wonderful to be true, and yet Gabriel's straightforward manner left little room for doubt. That night, as she laid out her clothes for her first day of teaching and reviewed her lesson plans one final time, Sophia allowed herself to believe that perhaps Green River would indeed be the fresh start she had hoped for in ways she had never dared to imagine. The next morning dawned clear and bright, matching Sophia's nervous excitement. She dressed with care in a crisp navy dress with white collar and cuffs, arranged her hair in a practical but becoming style, and gathered her teaching materials. After a quick breakfast, she made her way to the schoolhouse, arriving an hour before the students were due. Gabriel was waiting on the schoolhouse steps, a small package in his hands. "Thought you might need this for your first day," he said, presenting it to her. "A good luck token of sorts." Sophia unwrapped the package to find a small brass bell polished to a shine. "It's perfect," she said, genuinely touched by his thoughtfulness. "The old one was cracked." "I know," Gabriel replied with a smile. "I noticed when I helped you set up the classroom." The fact that he had been paying such close attention to details warmed her. "Thank you, Gabriel. This means a great deal to me." "You'll do fine today," he assured her, glancing at the town clock. "I should go. Don't want to distract you from your preparations. But I'll stop by later to see how it went, if that's all right." "I'd like that," Sophia replied. After Gabriel left, Sophia busied herself with final preparations, writing the date and a welcome message on the blackboard and arranging her desk. At precisely 8 o'clock, she stepped onto the schoolhouse porch and rang her new bell, its clear tone carrying across the schoolyard where children had already gathered. They filed in with varying degrees of enthusiasm, the younger ones excited and curious, the older ones more reserved and assessing. Sophia greeted each one by name, having memorized the school roster, and directed them to seats appropriate for their ages. "Good morning, students," she began once they were all seated. "I am Miss Summers, and I am honored to be your new teacher. This classroom belongs to all of us, and together we will create a place of learning, respect, and discovery." As she spoke, Sophia noticed some of the children staring at her size, a few whispering behind their hands. She had expected this and continued confidently, outlining her expectations and the subjects they would study. By the time she had them open their primers for their first lesson, most had stopped focusing on her appearance and were engaged with the task at hand. The day progressed more smoothly than Sophia had dared to hope. There were challenges. Of course, discovering the wide gaps in knowledge caused by inconsistent teaching over the past year, managing the various age groups, and establishing her authority with some of the older boys. But by the time she rang the bell to end the school day, Sophia felt a deep satisfaction in her chosen profession. As the children filed out, a few lingered to ask questions or offer shy comments about enjoying their first day. Emma Wilson, the friendly girl from the social, presented Sophia with a small bunch of wildflowers she had picked at lunchtime. "These are for you, Miss Summers. I'm really glad you're our teacher." Sophia's heart melted at the simple gesture. "Thank you, Emma. That's very kind. I'm glad to be your teacher, too." After the last child had departed, Sophia sat at her desk, recording her observations about each student's abilities and needs. She was so absorbed in her task that she didn't hear Gabriel enter until he cleared his throat. "Successful first day?" he asked, leaning against the doorframe. Sophia looked up with a smile. "Very. They're wonderful children, Gabriel, eager to learn, most of them. And the not-so-eager ones, they'll come around," she replied confidently. "I have my methods." Gabriel chuckled, entering the classroom and perching on one of the front desks. "I've no doubt of that. Town's already buzzing about the new teacher who knows French and can multiply large numbers in her head." "News travels fast in Green River," Sophia observed, amused. "That it does." He studied her face. "You look happy." "I am," she realized, somewhat surprised by the truth of it. "Teaching fulfills me in a way nothing else does, and these children—" She gestured to the rows of desks. "They don't seem to care about my size, not really. They care if I can help them learn, if I'm fair, if I listen to them." "Children often see what matters most," Gabriel said softly. "Something adults would do well to remember." His gaze was so warm, so appreciative, that Sophia felt herself blushing. "I should finish these notes while my observations are fresh," she said, glancing down at her record book. "Of course. Don't let me keep you." Gabriel straightened. I'm still looking forward to Friday evening if our plans still stand. They do, Sophia confirmed, her heart skipping at the reminder of their dinner engagement. Good. Until then, Miss Summers. He tipped his hat and left, his footsteps echoing on the wooden floor. The rest of the week passed in a blur of teaching, planning, and getting to know her students. Sophia found herself easily falling into the rhythms of school and community life. She joined Rebecca at the church sewing circle on Wednesday evening, where the women welcomed her warmly and caught her up on local news and gossip. So, Gabriel Eastwood's taking you to dinner at the hotel, Mrs. Peterson remarked as they stitched, her tone suggesting this was significant news. Sophia kept her eyes on her needlework. Yes, he kindly invited me. Marshall's never taken any lady to dinner there before, another woman commented. Not in all the time he's been in Green River. Perhaps he's simply being welcoming to a newcomer, Sophia suggested, unwilling to presume too much despite Gabriel's expressed interest in courting her. Rebecca snorted softly. Gabriel's welcoming to everyone, but he doesn't take them to the finest restaurant in town. He likes you, Sophia. The other women nodded in agreement, and Sophia felt a mixture of pleasure and embarrassment at being the center of such speculation. Part of her still couldn't quite believe that a man like Gabriel could genuinely be interested in her romantically. By Friday evening, Sophia was a bundle of nerves as she prepared for her dinner with Gabriel. She chose her best dress, a burgundy silk she had saved for special occasions, with delicate lace at the collar and cuffs. Mrs. Peterson had helped her arrange her hair in a more elaborate style than usual, and Sophia had even added a touch of rose water to her wrists. "You look lovely," Mrs. Peterson declared as Sophia emerged from her room. "That color suits you beautifully." "Thank you," Sophia replied, grateful for the older woman's approval. Despite their occasionally prickly relationship, Mrs. Peterson had shown increasing warmth towards Sophia as the days passed. Gabriel arrived promptly at 7, dressed in a suit that Sophia hadn't seen before, clearly his best, with a crisp white shirt and polished boots. He carried his hat in his hands and stopped short when he saw her, a look of admiration crossing his features. "Sophia," he said softly, "you look beautiful." The sincerity in his voice made her believe him, if only for a moment. "Thank you. You look quite handsome yourself." The hotel restaurant was the most elegant establishment in Green River, with white tablecloths, proper silverware, and even a small vase of flowers on each table. The maitre d' escorted them to a corner table with a view of the street, where lamps were being lit as dusk descended. "I've never dined here before," Sophia admitted as they were seated. "It's charming. Owners are from Boston," Gabriel explained. "Wanted to bring a touch of Eastern refinement to the frontier. Food's excellent, especially the beefsteak." They ordered their meal's beefsteak for Gabriel, roast chicken for Sophia, and settled into conversation. Gabriel asked about her first week of teaching, listening attentively as she described the progress she was already seeing in some students and the challenges presented by others. "Thomas Jenkins is struggling more than I expected," Sophia confided. "He can barely read simple words, yet he's 11 years old." "His father mentioned concerns," Gabriel replied. "Boy had a bad fever as a toddler. They worry it affected his learning somehow." "That would explain it," Sophia said thoughtfully. "I'll give him extra attention. There are methods for children who learn differently." Gabriel's expression softened. "You care deeply about your students already, of course." "That's what teaching is about, seeing each child as an individual with their own needs and potential." "Is that how you see everyone?" he asked, looking beyond the surface to what's within. Sophia considered his question. "I try to, perhaps because I've so often been judged by my appearance alone. Gabriel nodded, his blue eyes serious. I understand that more than you might think. Because of your role as marshal, people seeing the badge rather than the man, partly that, he acknowledged, but also. He hesitated, then continued. When I was younger, I had a severe stutter. Could hardly get a sentence out without stumbling over words. Other children were merciless in their teasing. Sophia was surprised by this revelation. Gabriel's speech now was clear and confident, with no trace of impediment. I would never have known. Had a teacher who worked with me for years, much like you're planning to help young Thomas. By the time I was 17, I'd mostly overcome it. Still happens sometimes when I'm very tired or upset. He smiled wryly. Hard to intimidate lawbreakers when you can't get the words out to arrest them. Thank you for sharing that with me, Sophia said, touched by his trust in revealing something personal. It helps to know that you understand what it's like to be judged for something beyond your control. Their food arrived, temporarily pausing their conversation. As they ate, Sophia became aware of curious glances from other diners. The town marshal dining with the new schoolteacher was evidently a matter of interest to Green River society. People are watching us, she murmured, self-consciousness returning. Let them, Gabriel replied easily. I'm proud to be seen with you, Sophia. His words warmed her, pushing back the familiar discomfort of being observed. They continued their meal, the conversation flowing naturally from teaching to books. They had both enjoyed to Gabriel's experiences as a lawman in various frontier towns. What made you choose Green River? Sophia asked as they shared a slice of apple pie for dessert. Wanted somewhere smaller, more peaceful after Denver, Gabriel admitted. A place where I could know everyone, where preventing trouble was more important than dealing with its aftermath. And I'd heard Wyoming territory was progressive first to grant women the vote and other legal rights. That did influence my decision to come here, Sophia acknowledged. Though I confess, I was desperate enough that I might have accepted a position anywhere that would have me. Their gain is our gain, Gabriel said firmly. Green River is fortunate to have you, Sophia. After dinner, Gabriel suggested a walk to enjoy the pleasant evening. They strolled along the main street, now quiet as most businesses had closed for the night. The stars were emerging in the darkening sky, more brilliant than Sophia had ever seen in Chicago. It's beautiful here, she remarked, gazing upward. The sky seems endless. One of the things I love about the West, Gabriel agreed. Makes a person feel both insignificant and important at the same time, if that makes any sense. It does, Sophia replied, understanding exactly what he meant. As if we're small in the grand scheme, yet still part of something magnificent. They had reached the schoolhouse, which stood dark and silent in the evening. Gabriel guided Sophia to a bench beneath the large cottonwood tree in the schoolyard. May we sit for a moment? He asked. There's something I'd like to discuss with you. Sophia nodded, suddenly nervous about his serious tone. They sat side by side, the evening breeze rustling the leaves above them. Sophia, Gabriel began, turning slightly to face her. I've greatly enjoyed getting to know you these past weeks. You're unlike any woman I've ever met, intelligent, compassionate, determined, and beautiful in ways that go far beyond appearance. Sophia's heart raced at his words, but caution kept her silent. I meant what I said about courting you, he continued, but I want to be clear about my intentions. I'm not a man who plays games or says things he doesn't mean. When I court a woman, it's with the hope of building a life together if we find ourselves compatible. Gabriel, Sophia finally managed, her voice barely above a whisper. Why me? There are so many women in town who would be honored by your attention, women who are more conventionally suitable. Gabriel's expression grew serious. "If you're referring to your size, Sophia, it has no bearing on my regard for you. I see you not just your outer form, but the woman you are inside. Your kindness, your intelligence, your gentle strength. That's what draws me to you." Tears pricked at Sophia's eyes. "I find that hard to believe. Men don't. They don't choose women like me when other options are available." "I'm not other men," Gabriel said simply. "And I choose based on what matters to me, not what society dictates should matter." He took her hand, his calloused palm warm against her skin. "I understand your hesitation. I imagine you've faced cruelty and rejection that I can't fully comprehend. All I ask is that you give us a chance to see if there might be something worth building between us." Sophia looked into his eyes, searching for any sign of deception or mockery, but found only sincerity. Could it be possible that this good man truly saw beyond her size to the woman within? "I would like that," she said finally. "But Gabriel, people will talk. They'll wonder what someone like you sees in someone like me." "Let them wonder," he replied firmly. "Their opinions don't dictate my happiness, and they shouldn't dictate yours either." As they sat beneath the stars, hands tentatively joined, Sophia felt a fragile hope blossoming within her, hope that perhaps here, in this frontier town, she might find not just professional fulfillment but personal joy as well. Over the following weeks, Gabriel courted Sophia with a gentle persistence that gradually wore down her defenses. He escorted her to church each Sunday, joined her for walks in the evenings after school, and occasionally surprised her with small, thoughtful gifts, a book of poetry he thought she might enjoy, wildflowers gathered during his patrols, or fresh baked goods from the hotel restaurant. The townsfolk quickly noticed the developing relationship between their marshal and the new schoolteacher. Some expressed surprise, others approval, and a few, particularly certain unmarried women who had set their sights on Gabriel, showed clear disapproval. But true to his word, Gabriel paid no mind to the gossip, treating Sophia with consistent respect and growing affection in public and private alike. October arrived, bringing cooler temperatures and the vibrant colors of autumn to the Wyoming landscape. The school term was well underway, with Sophia's students showing marked improvement under her dedicated instruction. Young Thomas Jenkins had made particular progress with the specialized teaching methods Sophia had developed for him, and his father's gratitude was evident in the frequent deliveries of fresh produce to her boarding house. One crisp Saturday afternoon, Gabriel invited Sophia on a horseback ride to see the autumn colors in the hills outside town. Sophia hesitated, embarrassed to admit she had never ridden a horse her size, had always made such activities seem impossible. "I don't think I can," she confessed. "No horse would want to carry me." Gabriel's expression remained thoughtful rather than dismissive. "I have a solution, if you're willing to try. My neighbor raises draft horses, gentle giants built for strength. He has a mare named Daisy, who's the sweetest creature you'll ever meet, and more than capable of carrying you comfortably." Sophia was touched by his consideration, not dismissing her concern, but finding a practical solution that didn't make her feel further embarrassed. "I'd still need to learn to ride," she pointed out. "I'm a patient teacher," Gabriel replied with a smile. "And Daisy's so gentle she practically rides herself. What do you say?" Unable to resist his enthusiasm and thoughtfulness, Sophia agreed. The following day, Gabriel brought her to his neighbor's small ranch just outside town, where she was introduced to Daisy, a massive Belgian draft horse with a golden coat and a white blazed face. "She's beautiful," Sophia whispered, awed by the animal's size and gentle demeanor. The mare lowered her head, snuffling curiously at Sophia's hand. "She likes you already," Gabriel observed. "Here, let me show you the basics." With infinite patience, Gabriel taught Sophia how to mount using a special mounting block, how to sit properly in the saddle, and how to communicate with Daisy through gentle pressure from her legs and light touches on the reins. By the end of an hour, Sophia was confidently riding in slow circles around the paddock, her initial fear replaced with growing delight. "This is wonderful," she exclaimed as Daisy responded to her commands. "I never thought I'd be able to ride." "You're a natural," Gabriel called from where he stood in the center of the paddock. Ready to try a short trail ride, they set out on a gentle path that followed a creek into the nearby hills, Gabriel riding his own horse, a sturdy bay gelding beside her. The autumn colors were spectacular, with aspens glowing gold against the dark green of pines, and the underbrush turned crimson and orange. "It's like a painting," Sophia breathed as they paused at a viewpoint overlooking the valley, where Green River nestled beside its namesake river. The town appeared tiny from this height, surrounded by the vast wilderness that defined the Western Territories. "One of my favorite spots," Gabriel agreed, dismounting to stand beside her horse. "Makes you remember how small we are in the grand scheme of things." Sophia carefully dismounted as well, using the technique Gabriel had taught her. She stood beside him, gazing at the panorama before them, acutely aware of his presence at her side. "Thank you for this," she said softly. "For finding a way I could experience this when others would have simply said it wasn't possible for someone like me." Gabriel turned to face her, his expression serious. "Sophia, I wish you wouldn't speak of yourself that way, someone like me, as if you're less deserving of experiences and joy than others. It's difficult to overcome a lifetime of being treated as though that's true," she replied honestly. Gabriel reached for her hand, entwining his fingers with hers. "I understand, but I hope in time you'll see yourself as I see you, as a remarkable woman worthy of everything life has to offer." The tenderness in his voice and the warmth in his eyes made Sophia's heart race. They stood close together, the horses grazing contentedly nearby and the valley spread below them. "May I kiss you, Sophia?" Gabriel asked softly. She nodded, unable to find her voice. Gabriel leaned forward, one hand gently cupping her cheek as his lips met hers in a kiss that was both tender and reverent. Sophia closed her eyes, allowing herself to be fully present in this moment she had never expected to experience. When they parted, Gabriel's smile was radiant. "I've been wanting to do that since the town social." "That long?" Sophia asked, surprised. "Longer, if I'm being honest," he admitted. "Since the day you arrived and apologized for breathing, as if existing was somehow an imposition." Sophia remembered their first meeting, how he had responded to her automatic apology. "You said my breath meant I was alive with you." "And I meant it," Gabriel replied, his thumb gently stroking her cheek. "Your life, your presence in this world and in Green River, is something to celebrate, not apologize for." Tears pricked at Sophia's eyes at his words. No one had ever made her feel so valued simply for existing. They returned to town, as the sun began its descent toward the western horizon, riding side by side in comfortable companionship. Sophia was pleasantly surprised to find that riding hadn't been as difficult or uncomfortable as she had feared, though she knew she would be sore the next day from using unaccustomed muscles. Gabriel escorted her to the boarding house, helping her dismount and walking her to the door. "I'll return Daisy to her stable," he said. "Would you join me for dinner at the hotel tomorrow after church?" "I'd love to," Sophia replied, still glowing from their shared kiss and the beautiful afternoon. As autumn progressed into early winter, Sophia and Gabriel's courtship deepened. They established routine Sunday dinners at the hotel, Wednesday evenings when Gabriel would visit the boarding house parlor to play chess or simply talk, Saturday outings when weather permitted. Mrs. Peterson, initially skeptical of the relationship, gradually warmed to Gabriel's presence and began to treat the couple with a motherly kind of approval. "Never thought I'd see the day when Gabriel Eastwood settled on a woman," she remarked to Sophia one evening as they prepared for his visit. "Man's been the most eligible bachelor in town for years, but never showed serious interest in anyone until you came along." Sophia blushed at the comment. "He's a good man." "That he is," Mrs. Peterson agreed, "and he looks at you like you've hung the moon and stars." Does my old heart good to see it. The school term continued successfully, with Sophia's students showing remarkable progress. She organized a Thanksgiving pageant that brought the entire town to the schoolhouse, where the children demonstrated their learning through recitations, songs, and displays of their work. Gabriel sat in the front row, his proud smile making Sophia's heart swell with affection. As December arrived, bringing with it the first heavy snows and preparations for Christmas, Gabriel began spending more time at the schoolteacher's quarters behind the schoolhouse, which had finally been properly repaired and furnished for Sophia's use. The small cottage was cozy and private, allowing the couple more comfortable visits than the formal boarding house parlor had permitted. One snowy evening, as they sat before the fireplace drinking hot chocolate, Gabriel seemed unusually thoughtful, even nervous. "Is something troubling you?" Sophia asked, setting aside her cup. Gabriel took a deep breath. "Not troubling exactly. I've been thinking about the future, our future." Sophia's heart quickened. "Oh, we've been courting for nearly 3 months now," he continued. "The best 3 months of my life, if I'm honest." He moved from his chair to kneel before her, taking her hands in his. "Sophia Summers, I love you. I love your brilliant mind, your kind heart, your strength and determination. I love the way you cherish each of your students, the way you face challenges without flinching, the way you're gradually learning to see your own worth." Tears filled Sophia's eyes as Gabriel reached into his pocket and withdrew a small velvet box. "I want to spend my life with you if you'll have me," he said, opening the box to reveal a delicate gold ring with a small but brilliant diamond. "Will you marry me?" Sophia stared at the ring, then at Gabriel's hopeful face, overwhelmed by emotion. Part of her, the part shaped by years of rejection and self-doubt, couldn't believe this was happening. But the larger part, the part that had grown stronger through Gabriel's unwavering affection, knew this was real. "Yes," she whispered, then more firmly, "Yes, Gabriel, I will marry you." His face lit with joy as he slipped the ring onto her finger, then rose to pull her into his arms, kissing her with a passion that took her breath away. "When?" he asked when they finally parted, both breathless. "After the school term ends in May," Sophia suggested. "That would give us time to prepare properly." "May seems very far away," Gabriel said with a smile that made her blush. "But I suppose I can be patient a while longer." News of their engagement spread quickly through Green River, met mostly with congratulations and good wishes. A few raised eyebrows and whispered comments reached Sophia's ears, but Gabriel's obvious happiness and devotion silenced most critics. The winter months passed in a flurry of teaching, wedding preparations, and deepening love. Gabriel purchased a small house near the edge of town, a comfortable 2-story home with a view of the mountains and enough land for a garden, and perhaps eventually a stable for Daisy, whom Sophia had continued to ride regularly, developing a strong bond with the gentle mare. "It needs some work," Gabriel acknowledged as he showed Sophia through the house for the first time. "But I thought we could make it our own together." Sophia walked through the empty rooms, imagining them filled with furniture, books, and eventually perhaps children. The thought both frightened and exhilarated her. "It's perfect," she told Gabriel, squeezing his hand. "I can see us building a life here." February brought Valentine's Day, and a special surprise from Gabriel, a beautiful bookcase he had crafted himself for their future home, designed to hold Sophia's growing collection of books. "I'm not the most skilled carpenter," he admitted as she admired the simple but elegant piece. "But I wanted to make something that would be meaningful to you." "It's beautiful," Sophia assured him, touched beyond words by the thoughtful gift. "And knowing you made it with your own hands makes it all the more special." As winter gradually gave way to spring, wedding plans progressed. Rebecca Turner was designing Sophia's wedding dress, working closely with her to create a gown that would be both beautiful and flattering to her figure. The church ladies planned the reception to be held in the town hall, and Gabriel's friends from the town council arranged for a special wedding gift, a week's honeymoon stay at a resort near the hot springs in nearby Idaho territory. Through it all, Sophia sometimes still marveled that this was her life, respected as a teacher, accepted by the community, and loved deeply by a good man who seemed to find her beautiful despite all the evidence she had accumulated throughout her life, suggesting she was anything but. One evening in early April, as they sat on the porch of their future home watching the sunset, Sophia voiced this lingering disbelief. "Sometimes I still can't quite believe you chose me," she admitted quietly. "That of all the women in Green River or beyond, you want to marry me." Gabriel took her hand, running his thumb over her engagement ring. "Sophia, it was never a matter of choosing from a selection of women as if I were shopping for a horse or a new hat. It was about finding the one person who completes me, who challenges me to be better, who fills spaces in my life I didn't even know were empty." He turned to face her fully. "From that first day when you apologized for breathing such a small moment, but it revealed so much about how the world had treated you, I saw something in you that called to me. A strength that had endured despite everything, a gentleness that hadn't hardened into bitterness, a brilliant mind and generous heart." Gabriel lifted her hand to his lips, kissing it softly. "I didn't fall in love with you despite your size, Sophia. I fell in love with you, all of you, exactly as you are. Your body is part of the remarkable woman I love, not an obstacle to overcome or overlook." Tears slipped down Sophia's cheeks at his words. "I'm trying to believe that," she whispered. "It's just difficult after a lifetime of being taught otherwise." "I know," Gabriel replied gently, "and I'll keep reminding you every day for the rest of our lives if that's what it takes." As May approached, bringing with it the end of the school term and their wedding day, Sophia found herself caught up in a whirlwind of activity. Final examinations for her students, completing their academic records, preparing the schoolhouse for the summer break, and the last details of wedding preparations filled every waking hour. The week before the wedding, a letter arrived from Chicago from Sophia's parents, responding to the wedding invitation she had sent months earlier. With trembling hands, she opened it, fearing their disapproval or, worse, their refusal to attend. Instead, the letter contained joyful news. Not only would her parents attend, but they were already en route, expected to arrive in Green River 3 days before the ceremony. Sophia had barely finished reading when Gabriel arrived for their evening visit. "They're coming," she exclaimed, showing him the letter. "My parents will be here for our wedding." Gabriel's face lit with happiness at her joy. "That's wonderful news. I look forward to meeting them." "I was so afraid they wouldn't approve," Sophia admitted. "They've always worried about my prospects, always feared I would end up alone because of my size." "Well, now they can see that their fears were unfounded," Gabriel replied, pulling her into a gentle embrace. You found a man who recognizes your worth in a community that values you. The arrival of Mr. and Mrs. Summers 3 days later was an emotional reunion. Sophia's mother, a slender woman with Sophia's hazel eyes, embraced her daughter with tears streaming down her face, while her father, a distinguished-looking man with silver at his temples, clasped her hands tightly. "You look wonderful, Sophia," her mother said, stepping back to observe her. "There's a glow about you we've never seen before." "It's happiness, Mother," Sophia replied simply. "I've found my place here." When Gabriel joined them for dinner at the hotel that evening, Sophia watched nervously as her parents assessed the man who would soon be their son-in-law. Their approval was evident in the way they relaxed as the meal progressed, Gabriel's respectful manner and obvious adoration of their daughter winning them over completely. "Your Marshal Eastwood is a fine man," her father told Sophia later as they walked back to Mrs. Peterson's, where her parents were also staying. "I can see why you love him, and more importantly, I can see how much he loves you." "He does love me, Father," Sophia said softly. "Sometimes I still can't quite believe it, but he does." Her father squeezed her hand. "Believe it, my dear." A father knows when a man truly cherishes his daughter, and Gabriel Eastwood cherishes you as you deserve to be cherished. The wedding day dawned clear and mild, a perfect spring day with wildflowers blooming across the Wyoming landscape, and a gentle breeze carrying their fragrance through town. Sophia stood in Rebecca's shop, where a full-length mirror had been set up for her to see herself in her wedding gown for the first time. The dress was a triumph of Rebecca's skill, ivory satin with delicate lace overlay, designed to accentuate Sophia's best features while providing the support and structure her figure needed. The neckline framed her face beautifully, and the full skirt moved gracefully when she walked. "You look like a queen," Rebecca said softly as she adjusted the simple veil. "Gabriel won't be able to take his eyes off you." "It's beautiful, Rebecca," Sophia whispered, hardly recognizing the elegant woman in the mirror. "I never thought I could look like this." "Every woman deserves to feel beautiful on her wedding day," Rebecca replied, squeezing her hand. "And you are beautiful, Sophia, not just today, but every day." At precisely noon, Sophia's father escorted her into the church, which had been decorated with spring flowers and ribbons by the ladies of the congregation. Gabriel waited at the altar, handsome in a new black suit, his eyes widening with wonder as Sophia appeared at the entrance. As she moved slowly down the aisle on her father's arm, Sophia was aware of the packed church. Nearly everyone in Green River had turned out for the wedding of their marshal and schoolteacher. But she had eyes only for Gabriel, whose face reflected such love and awe that her last doubts melted away. The ceremony was simple but meaningful, with Reverend Phillips speaking eloquently about the sacred bond of marriage and the journey the couple was beginning together. When the time came for their vows, Gabriel's voice was clear and strong, the stutter he had mentioned completely absent as he pledged his love and faithfulness. "I, Gabriel James Eastwood, take you, Sophia Elizabeth Summers, to be my lawfully wedded wife," he said, his blue eyes never leaving hers. "I promise to love and cherish you all the days of my life, to honor and respect you, to stand by you through whatever joys and sorrows we may face together. Your breath, your life, your very being is precious to me, and I will spend my life showing you just how much." Sophia's voice trembled slightly as she responded with her own vows, overwhelmed by the reality that this good man was truly becoming her husband. "I, Sophia Elizabeth Summers, take you, Gabriel James Eastwood, to be my lawfully wedded husband. I promise to love and support you, to trust and respect you, to laugh and cry with you, and to cherish our union all the days of my life." You have shown me what it means to be truly seen and valued, and I will strive to be the wife you deserve." When Reverend Phillips pronounced them husband and wife, Gabriel's kiss was gentle but full of promise, drawing a collective sigh from the congregation before they erupted in applause. The reception at the town hall was a joyous affair, with music, dancing, and enough food to feed half the territory. Gabriel kept Sophia close, his hand often finding hers or resting lightly at her waist, as if reassuring himself that she was really his wife at last. "Mrs. Eastwood," he murmured in her ear during a quiet moment. "I like the sound of that." "So do I, Mr. Eastwood," she replied with a smile. "Very much." As evening approached and the celebration continued, Gabriel led Sophia outside for a moment of privacy in the cooling air. "Happy?" he asked, studying her face in the golden light of sunset. "More than I ever imagined possible," Sophia replied truthfully. "Gabriel, when I came to Green River, I hoped only for acceptance as a teacher and perhaps a bit of respect. I never dreamed I would find such complete happiness or such love." Gabriel drew her into his arms, his expression tender. "This is just the beginning, my love. We have a lifetime ahead of us, a lifetime for me to show you every day how much you mean to me." "A lifetime," Sophia echoed, leaning into his embrace. "That sounds perfect." As twilight deepened into night, the newlyweds said their goodbyes to the wedding guests and Sophia's parents, who would return to Chicago the following week. Gabriel helped his wife into the waiting carriage that would take them to their new home, now fully furnished and prepared for their arrival. "Welcome home, Mrs. Eastwood," Gabriel said softly as he carried her across the threshold, honoring the tradition. Sophia looked around at the cozy parlor with its comfortable furniture, the bookcase Gabriel had made filled with her books, and the welcoming fire in the hearth. On the wall hung a framed photograph taken earlier that day, their first portrait as husband and wife. "It's perfect," she whispered, turning in his arms to face him. "Everything is perfect." As Gabriel lowered his mouth to hers in a kiss that spoke of all the love and promise of their future together, Sophia knew that she had finally found the place where she truly belonged, not just in Green River, but in the heart of this remarkable man who had seen her worth when she could not see it herself. In the years that followed, the Eastwoods' marriage became known throughout the region as one of exceptional devotion and partnership. Gabriel continued as town marshal, while Sophia taught generations of Green River's children, eventually becoming principal of the expanded school as the town grew with the arrival of the railroad. Their home filled with books, laughter, and eventually children, first a son, Michael, born a year after their wedding, then twin daughters, Emily and Grace, who arrived 2 years later. The children grew up surrounded by love and learning, inheriting their father's integrity and their mother's compassion. On their 20th wedding anniversary, as they sat on their porch watching the sunset over the mountains, Gabriel took Sophia's hand just as he had on countless evenings before. "Do you remember what I told you that first day?" he asked, his hair now streaked with silver but his blue eyes as bright as ever. "When you apologized for breathing loudly." "I remember," Sophia replied, leaning her head against his shoulder. "You said my breath meant I was alive with you." "Best thing I ever said," Gabriel mused, pressing a kiss to her temple. "Because every breath you've taken since has been a blessing to me, Sophia. Every day with you has been a gift." Sophia smiled, thinking of the journey they had shared, the joys and sorrows, challenges and triumphs that had shaped their life together. She had long since stopped apologizing for her existence, had learned through Gabriel's unwavering love to value herself as he valued her. "And every breath has been sweeter because I've shared it with you," she replied, turning to kiss him as the final rays of sunlight painted the Wyoming sky in shades of gold, and rose a fitting backdrop for a love story that had begun with a simple acknowledgement of the precious nature of life itself.